What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here. Today we went ahead and installed extended brake lines onto my Jeep Wrangler JKU. So I wanted to bring you guys along, show you exactly what I did here. Extended brake lines are super important if you're running a lift on your Jeep, because the stock ones just are not long enough. So let's go ahead and get this going, guys, and I'll show you exactly what I did. All right, so coming around to the front here, what we did here, I went with the extended stainless steel brake lines here, which I'm really happy with, as well as the TerraFlex brake line anchors. So these make it super easy to route these, which I'm very happy with. But as you can see here, guys, it's a pretty easy install. This is a 12 millimeter. It's easier to use a box wrench, just so you can get all the way around it. But yeah, you can use a regular wrench on this, and then you have a 10 millimeter bolt here that you have to take out before you can get all that taken apart. And then if you go underneath here, you got your 15 millimeter banjo bolt there. And one thing you want to make sure you don't forget is the copper washers on both the front and the back of that banjo bolt. Otherwise it will leak. So make sure you do not forget that. It's super important when it comes to doing brake lines. So banjo bolt, super important with the copper washers. It should come with it in your kit. So that's something that should be already pre-supplied. Also, what's also pre-supplied here is the bracket. So the bracket should be pre-supplied for you. This was super easy to put together. It's literally, you just literally get a hammer and just push that in there, and it holds the brake line in place. And in the rear, I did something a little different. So normally it would mount right here, but I saw that it still didn't seem like it was giving me a lot of brake line. So as you can see here, I have a lot of extra brake line now. I use this little bracket here that I already had sitting around from my last Jeep, and I just put it on here and then move this down a little bit. It's not putting too much stress on here. Everything mounted up perfectly, so I'm gonna keep it like that. It gives me like an extra about 2 inches there, so I'm gonna keep it that way and hope for the best. But the rear is the same exact way. You have a 15 millimeter banjo bolt here, but you want to make sure you do the copper washers on. Also, while you're down here, you might want to check your slide pin bolts as well, which are right there and right there. I noticed I was missing one in the front, and I don't know how long it's been gone. So that was a little bit sketchy. A little bit sketchy there. So yeah, just make sure you do a once over when you're doing these brake lines. You also are going to have to bleed the system, which is not a very hard job at all. All you need is a hose that will fit around the bleeder. The bleeder is right by the banjo bolt, so it's right next to each other. You put that hose on there, get a water bottle, fill it up about 1/3 of the way with some brake fluid. That way you have some suction in there. And also make sure you put an extra hole for the air to escape on the water bottle, otherwise it could explode because of the pressure. So, but you can do brake bleeding by yourself. It's easier with a person, but all you have to do is undo the bleeder or loosen it up. Don't loosen it up too much, just enough to where you can see stuff's coming through. But yeah, you want to undo the bleeder there, get inside the Jeep, pump down about 6 times, close it, and then you want to open it back up again, pump 6 times, and then you should be just about good after 10 to 12 pumps. But you want to make sure you check the line and make sure there's no air bubbles there after that. But also make sure that you keep an eye on your brake fluid inside your master cylinder there, because if it gets low, you're going to have to bleed the whole system again if it sucks in any air. So make sure you keep your brake fluid where it should be. Why put extended brake lines on your Jeep? So I noticed with my stock lines, they weren't terrible, but that's because there were brackets on there already from a previous lift installed that kind of put them down a couple inches. So I had a little bit, but when I fully drooped the back, when I was putting in the new 4.5-inch coils, it was really holding up my droop. So the rear was definitely a necessity. The front was not terrible once I moved the bracket from where it was, that little 10 millimeter bracket that's underneath the coil perch. If you take that off, move it behind the shock instead of inside the shock, or on the other side of the shock there, that'll give you a lot more room there. So if you don't have the money for extended brake lines or don't want to mess with it, you could do that and it will get you by for now. But stainless steel braided lines are just stronger in general. So if you're doing a lot of off-roading, that's something that's going to be very beneficial to you, and your brake system as well. It's always good to get in there and bleed some new fluid into the system, and the new brake lines are just going to be better all around as far as stronger, longer, and shouldn't cause any issues down the road. So there's a lot of good brands you could go with. There's Metal Cloak. Rough Country has a decent set for a good price, which is the ones I went with, as the Rough Country steel braided lines. Terraflex has a good set, and a couple other brands do as well. So there's a lot of different ones on the market depending on how much you want to spend. I went the cheap route on this one, and if I have issues, I'm going to go for the more expensive one. So I'm going to run these and just hope for the best, really. But I am going to carry my stock lines with me just in case there are any issues. I can swap those on and be off the trail if I need to. Here's a little look outside the garage of the 4.5-inch coils. As you can see here, it really shot up the front end here. It gave me at least 1.5 inches in the front and at least 1.5 inches in the rear. So a lot more room there. Very happy with the coils so far. As you can see, there they are in there. Did get my bump stops in there finally. And the bump stops, I know this sounds crazy, but I didn't drill any holes when I installed the coils. I didn't want to go back and do it again. So what I did was I got some epoxy, some of the Gorilla epoxy glue, and I've done this on previous Jeeps and haven't had any issues. What I did is I went in there and epoxied the bump stops in there. I have 2 inches of bump stop right now, which should be perfect, maybe even a little too much. But I went in there and epoxied it, and they're on there super solid. And again, I did this on a previous Jeep and it lasted a whole 1.5 years, 2 years maybe. So I may just run that on there until she gives out, and then maybe go with the Metal Cloak ones, and just go ahead and drill it. But as you can see there, it's in there pretty solid. No issues there. So if you're having trouble with your bump stops and looking for an easy solution, get some Gorilla epoxy glue and just go ahead and glue it on there. But make sure you clamp it down really good, that way it's on there. Don't just put it on there and then leave it. So, but yeah, Jeep's coming along real nice, guys. Wanted to give you guys a little update after I did the brake lines. Brake lines went on super easy, so I'm really happy with that. Again, these are the stainless steel braided lines. I'm very happy with them. They're just long enough. I do need to, of course, test out my flex just to make sure everything's solid. But I don't foresee any issues. They look plenty long enough. So. Alright guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for today's video. Just wanted to give you guys a little update on how I did the brake lines, why I did the brake lines, and just go ahead and walk you through that. So if you have any questions, drop them down below. Again, please like and subscribe for more Jeep and off-road content, guys. Got a lot more coming your way. Hopefully doing some wheeling trips starting this next month. So really excited about that. I am so ready to get back on the trail. It's finally a nice 50 degrees here in Indiana, so, and the sun's out, so that's rare. But again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Any questions, drop them down below, and thanks for watching.